If you are awake at 2:30 a.m. tonight staring blankly at your ceiling while the rest of the world sleeps, do not look for a pill. Your body is not malfunctioning. Your brain is running a hyper-focused 300,000-year-old biological program that modern civilization tried to erase. And the fact that you can't sleep means the program is working. If you are awake at 2:30 a.m. tonight staring blankly at your ceiling while the rest of the world sleeps, do not look for a pill. Your body is not malfunctioning. Your brain is running a hyper-focused 300,000-year-old biological program that modern civilization tried to erase. And the fact that you can't sleep means the program is working. Tonight, when you finally decide to close your eyes, you expect one continuous block of rest, 8 solid hours. Anything less is labeled a bad night. Anything fragmented is called insomnia. But for 99.9% of human history, that 8-hour block did not exist. It is a modern invention, a biological straitjacket we forced our brains into less than 2 centuries ago. Before the factory whistle and the electric light bulb, human nights looked entirely different. When the sun went down, the world didn't just slow down, it died. The darkness was absolute. You couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. And in that deep, unyielding dark, your ancestors spent roughly half their lives. But they didn't sleep through it, not the way you do. Let's go back before the industrial smoke, before cheap candles. Imagine a medieval village in winter. The sun sets at 4 p.m. The fires are covered to prevent the town from burning down while people rest. What did they actually do for the next 14 hours of darkness? They split the night in half. They would go to bed shortly after twilight, falling into what historical texts call the first sleep. It lasted about 4 hours. Then, completely naturally, without an alarm clock or a flashing phone screen, an entire village would wake up together. They didn't panic, they didn't toss and turn in frustration. Waking up in the dead of night was as predictable as the sunrise. It was simply called the watch. For 1 to 2 hours, the midnight world came alive in absolute silence. People stayed in bed and stared into the dark, reflecting on their dreams while the imagery was still fresh. Writers picked up their pens. Doctors advised students that the quiet hours between first and second sleep were the absolute best time for deep study and deep reflection. The mind was calm, the world was still. Couples used this window to talk, to visit neighbors quietly, or to conceive children. A 16th century French medical manual explicitly stated that children conceived during the watch would be stronger and more intelligent because the parents' minds were completely cleared of daytime stress. Then, around 3 a.m., a second wave of tiredness would naturally wash over the camp or the house. They would slide back into second sleep, resting comfortably until dawn. This wasn't a choice, it was our fundamental biological matrix. For centuries, modern historians read about this lifestyle in old documents and completely ignored it. When they found references to first sleep in Homer's Odyssey or in Old English court records, they assumed it was a mistranslation. They assumed it was a poetic metaphor. Because the modern assumption was so deep, translators literally altered ancient Greek and medieval Latin texts to fit their modern experience. They couldn't conceive of a world where human sleep wasn't a single, continuous block. Until 1992, when science proved the historians wrong. A psychiatrist named Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health decided to run a radical experiment. He took a group of ordinary modern volunteers and completely stripped artificial light from their lives. No light bulbs, no TVs, no screens. For 14 hours every single night, they were placed in absolute, uninterrupted darkness, just like our ancestors before the industrial age. The first week, the subjects slept long hours, paying off their modern sleep debts. But by week 3, something incredible happened. An ancient, dormant program buried deep inside their DNA suddenly reasserted itself. Without anyone prompting them, every single participant fell into the exact same pattern. They slept for 4 hours. They woke up for 2 hours of quiet, peaceful wakefulness. Then they slept for another 4 hours. But it was what Ware discovered inside their blood during that 2-hour midnight window that shocked the scientific community. This wasn't insomnia. It wasn't standard waking consciousness either. Ware measured their hormone levels and found that during the watch, the human brain produces elevated levels of prolactin. Prolactin is the exact same hormone released during meditation, deep reflection, and after an orgasm. It reduces anxiety. It creates a profound sense of peace, clarity, and emotional stillness. The subjects didn't feel tired or stressed. They reported feeling intensely awake yet completely tranquil. It was an entirely unique state of human consciousness, a state of mind that modern humans have completely eliminated from the planet. The answer is simpler than you think: light. In the late 1600s, major European cities began installing public street lamps to curb crime. Paris led the charge. London followed. The night, which had been a terrifying domain of predators and lawlessness, darkness was slowly conquered. Then came gas lighting. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the incandescent light bulb. Within a generation, we pushed the darkness back. We extended the working day. We told ourselves it was progress. We thought we had mastered nature. But our biology didn't care about progress. Every time blue light from a screen or a bright LED bulb hits your retina at 11 p.m., your brain interprets it as high noon on an open field. It delays the release of melatonin. It fragments your sleep cycles. It forces your body to skip the natural midnight awakening and compress your sleep into one stressful, artificial 8-hour block. We didn't just change our schedules, we locked an ancient creature inside a glowing cage. And this is where the biological friction turns into psychological suffering. When you wake up at 2 a.m. tonight, your body is simply trying to access the watch. It is trying to flood your system with prolactin. It is trying to give you the quiet hours of reflection your ancestors used to build human culture, to interpret their lives, and to process their fears. But you don't let it. Instead, you grab your phone, you flood your eyes with blue light, you check your notifications, you get anxious about how tired you'll be in the morning, you fight your own DNA, you turn a sacred biological window into a medical disorder called insomnia. Researchers have found that if you take a modern human camping for just 1 week with no flashlights, no phones, and no screens, their melatonin cycles completely reset. Their bodies start producing sleep hormones at sunset instead of hours after it. The 300,000-year program is still there. It is waiting just beneath the surface, buried under a thin layer of electricity. We traded an entire phase of human consciousness for a light switch. We traded midnight peace for constant productivity, and most of us never even realized it was gone. So the next time you find yourself awake in the dark at 2 a.m., do not fight it. Do not look at your phone. Turn off the light. Just lie there. Listen to the silence of the room. Let your mind drift through the quiet hours. Because you aren't malfunctioning, you are just remembering what it means to be human.